everyone. Welcome to the November podcast. I can't believe it's end of the year already. Can you?
Nope.
It's
Nope.
amazing.
Our time's gone.
Well, we're missing Dee right now, but maybe she'll pop in somewhere along the way. Yvonne, you've been gone for a while. It's so nice to have you back.
Good
We're
to be
so
back.
excited. We have been talking about the various court cards of late. And so today's podcast is going to be, we're going to be talking about the kings of the court, and just different things about the kings. But before we start, I just want to make a couple of quick announcements. First and foremost, if you like this podcast, please give it a thumbs up because that's how people find us. Also, I wanted to let you know that my most recent video on this channel is the Kings of the Celtic Cross. And it's just, I don't know, by happenstance that they both showed up in the same month. So I wanted to tell you that. I also wanted to share with you girls that I just did a psychic fair last weekend where I debuted my crystal divination readings. And wow, it was amazing. And I am getting ready to start a series on how I did that and added it to my tarot practice. So that might be something kind of fun for people. Plus, I'm moving into a shop. And so I'm hanging up my tent and my booth. I'm moving into a shop. And so it's going to be so much easier. So I don't have to lug all my crystals around with me. Anyway, let's talk about the kings today. Oh, one more announcement. And because I think this is important. Kate, you officially announced on your channel, Kate Tarot Cafe, that you're no longer going to be doing political readings, but
certainly not for a while. Not for a while.
You are working on some really interesting different angles of the tarot cards, and I'll leave it at that for you to. Yeah. But it would be worth subscribing to see what you're coming up with in January because you're preparing all that for January. Okay, so the kings. There's a gal that I really like. Her name is Lozzy, Lozzy, and she does tarot and Lenormand, and she has a channel, and we set our intentions for whatever it is that we want. The thing that I like about her is she says, for her, the kings and queens are always people, and the knights and the pages are always attributes. So for her, they're action and messages. And so that's her thing. And I mean, we can all set whatever intentions that we want. But I really do see the simplicity of, the kings and queens being people. And but yet at the same time, those kings have a lot of attributes that, really, kind of show up in some of these readings. And so I thought that I'm so glad that we're talking about kings today. And not only are they leaders, but they're kind of controllers too, and they're influencers as well. So what do we want? Should we start with the King of Wands today? Talk about the King of Wands. Mm-hmm. So who has something interesting on the King of Wands that they want to discuss? Anything? I'm going to pull up my notes.
I think, like, in general, I see as you do that, the kings are leaders and influencers, black the way. And of course, the one suit is the action, right? So I think of the King of Wands in terms of action, like what you would think of as a typical like a military leader or some type of thing like that has that defined leadership role as part of whatever. And of course, I do not gender my court cards. So to me, the king is outward facing energy. So this is someone who appears before other people and is like, come follow me. That kind of energy that he brings with him. It doesn't necessarily have to be a physical man, but yeah, definitely. To me, the kings are sort of almost platonic ideal, right, of this attribute, whatever the attribute of this suit is. And so each of them brings that. And this is the page all growing up, right? The page progresses, but this is kind of the ultimate evolution of that card.
Yeah. Yeah, I see the King of Wands as a natural born leader.
Yeah.
He's out in front. And and I think he's just really fueled by this strong desire to succeed at whatever it is he's moving toward. And but he can also easily inspire everybody else. But
Yeah.
I kind of see him as it's like, is he a helper? Is he, is he there? I don't think he wants to be your friend, but I think that he could benefit you by being an ally, in the whole thing. Because frankly, I see him more as, you know what, you either hitch a ride, to my wagon, or get the hell out of my way. Because that's, you're either with him or you're on the sidelines eating dust. So anybody else? Anne Marie, you usually have some type of a different view on some of these guys.
Well, I tell you what, I came across something when I was looking up to see whether there be anything interesting to talk about, or something interesting anyway. And I came across something Maddie Aluna was talking about. And she was saying, which I wouldn't ever have thought of, that the King of Wands, she sees that as a red flag in a relationship reading.
Yes.
A red flag. And she said, first of all, look at your card. You've got your King of Wands. And
Mhm.
and not necessarily that one, but look at any of them and see how is the figure sitting, what kind of an attitude has it got. And to her mind, he's sitting there, he's not really engaging straight up front with what's happening. He's almost edging off his throne. He almost doesn't want to be where he is. So she's thinking, in a relationship reading, he really doesn't want to get too involved, but he's saying, I'll just hang on in there and see if the grass is really greener on the other side, or if maybe I've got to come back and re-engage and see what's happening. So he's looking for things on his own terms.
Right.
This is how she came up with that. And I liked that idea. And King of Wands as well. What did you say? Or no, this is somebody else was saying that he's very magnanimous,
Yeah.
and the attribute for him is controlling appetites and passions, and he really enjoys life. And they were saying, think of Falstaff in Shakespeare, that he lives it big. Anything he wants to do, it's on big high energy. He loves the big high energy of it. Maybe a little bit overpowering. He has come, as in all the kings. An interesting thing they were saying, with all the kings, they wear this cap of maintenance under their crown, which indicates that they are powerful. They're prepared to take charge of things, and they will be responsible for their people. They're each looking after a set of people, and they'll be responsible for their people. But
Right.
he's not too keen on responsibility. He would just as soon swerve the responsibility, but he will stay there and do what he's asked to do.
He's a
As little
front man.
as,
He's
as little
he's
as
the
he can
front
cope.
man.
He's a people pleaser.
Yeah.
He's a people pleaser.
And I want to say hi, Dee. We see that. Oh, there you are. Hi, Dee.
There you are. Hi.
So I want to I want to say that, with all the attributes, and I love looking at all the courts as attributes. It's easier than people to me, than coming up with the people. But it's always important, especially for aspiring tarotists, to be able to take whatever attributes that they can resonate with on these court cards and put them into a situation, in a relationship, in a career reading, in a financial reading, so they can understand how to use that attribute. So, it's funny because the King of Wands in a relationship, he would be the controlling type, right? I mean, he
Absolutely.
and the swords both, but he would control. But because he's so interesting and he's so creative and he's so fun and energetic to be around, you want to follow him. It's like, it's okay that he's the leader because you want to follow him.
He's
And
charismatic.
yes, and if you have somebody that's in a relationship and they're saying, I'm in this new relationship. I need to know where it's going. I might warn you that don't be run over by this wonderful personality. Make sure that you save space for yourself as an
Mhm.
individual when it comes to this person. So because I'm seeing that's that him taking over and running with it and you just following right along, could be to your detriment if you're not careful. So we're
Right.
talking about the King of Wands, D.
Oh yeah, he's usually a hunk.
Yeah.
And he is a master at getting other people to do whatever he wants. And not necessarily in a bad way, but like he's the born leader,
Yeah.
and he's got that charismatic presence, that he is. I mean, look at this card. Look at this guy.
Oh yeah. And there's your hunk. There's your hunk,
Yeah,
D.
here's your hunk,
See, there
baby.
you are.
Hey, just ask him. He'll tell you how hunky he is.
And he's just leaning into his chair like, that's right,
That's
I
right.
am the
It's me.
king.
Isn't that great?
Anyway, and kings, they are the completion to the court cards, right?
Right.
You just have the idea, the knights bring it to action, the queens they nurture it, the idea, and then finally the king,
Yeah.
will make it happen. And I mean, then with a guy like this, yeah, and it doesn't necessarily have to be, he doesn't have to do a lot of work.
No.
Because he has that authority, the power, the charisma.
He has the inspiration to motivate others to do it for him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's really just sitting there in all his glory saying, this is as good as it gets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I was looking about how can we take some of his attributes and turn them into, situations. And what I came up with is when it comes to like work, right? And a work environment, because people ask about their careers and they ask about their relationships. And he comes across very confident and he can overcome challenges, he can overcome obstacles. So people turn to him for that and for that advice because he's so creative that if you have a problem, he can come up with a solution like off the top of his head. I mean, that's just how creative and talented he is. And also when it comes up in like if it's a career reading, he might come up to let you know that advancement is coming for you. Because he is about advancement. He is about the moving up the ladder. He's a ladder climber himself, so it might be a time for advancement. But also, if you are in management and you're asking about something, you might want to be careful not to micromanage or look at your situation. Are you micromanaging your situation? Because he has a tendency to do that too. He doesn't want to do the work. He just wants to, he wants to control it, but just be careful how much control. And also, it might be a sign that you need to control your temper too. Have a little
Right.
patience because he can be very
Right.
impatient.
Right, because he represents fire, the fire energy.
Yes.
Yep.
And he fires up easily. So it's looking for that. It's looking for those tendencies and saying, is that in your space? Is that where, in your reading? What do you need? What do you
Yeah.
see for a relationship reading for him?
He'll sweep you off your feet pretty fast.
Right.
It's just
He will.
it's a whirlwind, right? And it's
He
coming.
is.
Like, hang on, girl, we're going for a good time. And
Mhm.
like,
But maybe
bang,
not
they're
for a
off to the
long
races.
time.
I mean,
Yeah, it may not be a long time, but you're gonna remember it.
Mhm. Yeah. He'll sweep you
Yeah.
off your feet.
Many, many moons ago, many moons when I was single, I had a rule. I never wanted to date anybody that spent more time in front of the mirror than I did. To me, that reminds me of the King of Wands. He, in a relationship, I think he can be very domineering, not not necessarily in a negative way. I mean, it's who he is. But I think sometimes he's more interested in having his own needs met. than he is really paying attention to other people. That's that slight narcissism that you can find in him. So
When you look at the picture of him, you can almost see him sitting there. This is again in a relationship situation. You can almost see him sitting there and say, "Are you finished yet? Have you finished telling me all these things?
yeah, it's like, I'm
Really,
ready to go. Speed
I
it
really
up.
I really have stuff to tell you. I really have stuff going on in my life that's important. Are we there yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He's
Nice.
not really
Funny.
engaging in anything that's happening other than with himself.
Right.
Mhm.
So
But I
let's
always
move.
think of him
Go
that
ahead.
just a little bit. I always think of that wand um um as if he's involved in something, he's coaching it. Like being a football coach. He's got to know what players he needs. He's got to know where he's weak, where he's strong. And he just uses that, but he's so stinking savvy. And you look at him, you just think, God, you're so stinking cute. You can do anything. Okay, fine. Just listen to it, let him do his deal, and then move on. Know your boundaries with that guy.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing right there, is knowing your boundaries and knowing when to get out of his way and let him do his thing, because
Mm.
he's going to do it
But
anyway.
you're
Mhm.
not going to get the better of him. I think that's
You're
that's
right.
a big thing for him. His ego is so large that you're not going to know, even if it's against himself, he's going to make sure nobody gets the better of him in a situation.
Hey, I want
You're
to ask you about something. One of the things that I see a lot of terrorists do, that coach, when they're coaching brand new readers, they will, a lot of them will recommend, and I too have done this myself, recommend that you sit down, you have a court card party, you sit down and you take all 16 court cards, and you figure out their attributes and assign them to people, so that when they come up, you really get a good feel for who they are or what they are. Do you guys agree with that, or do you think that that tends to limit or lock in a personality traits?
Well, I think in a way it's a bit dangerous to take it too far, I guess, is what I'm saying, is that it depends on what I think about that person, right? Like
Mm.
if I had somebody who was a really good friend of mine, 10 years ago, but we've kind of fallen out or things have just, you know, faded, whatever, as time happens. And whatever I've got locked in my mind, if I'm associating those attributes to that person. When we were close and tight, I have a kind of a very warm feeling about it. And if there's been, bad blood in the relationship, then I'm taking that same card
It
and
carries
now I've got a
over.
real negative spin on it.
Yeah. See, that's what I was thinking, because I have an old friend that I haven't seen for a few years, but man, when we were together, we were so close and so tight. This was in the end of my singledom. But she was, every time I see the Queen of Wands, man, it reminds me of her. I mean, she was gregarious. She was out there. She could walk into a room and everything would stop. I mean, guys were lined up at the bar wanting to buy her a drink, and we had a lot of fun, and we did a lot of crazy things. But she was bulimic. She was bipolar. She had to have a man in her life to define her worth. And so she just reminds me, so she was so smart though in business. She was very, very smart and very out there. And yet she was damaged in some way, you know what I'm saying? And I loved her in spite of herself, in spite of her weaknesses and her flaws. I loved her dearly. But when I see the Queen of Wands and I relate it to people, she comes to mind always right away when I turn it over. But I kind of see the Queen of Wands now as slightly damaged because of my relationship between the two. So that's where I kind of went, oh, this might not be a good thing, to teach people to do it that way. I think it's almost better to say, list all the attributes that you have found on the King of Wands, for example, and then list out how the ones that resonate with you, how would they manifest in these different areas of life, so that's what you see when it comes up. So when you see a King of Wands come up in a relationship reading, oh, you're gonna this guy must be domineering, right? Or oh, this, or oh, he's gonna sweep you off his feet and take you far places. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to, oh, he reminds me of Uncle Fred, who was an alcoholic. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right, right.
I think if you were going to take that advice, if you were going to typecast somebody as one of your court cards, it's a very easy start for someone setting out. But you would want to be aware not to lock it in for good. Just
right.
to see for the
Exactly.
moment, this is what
Exactly.
this is what's coming to me about this person. But
And I
review
had to
it
learn to
again.
do that. I had to learn to not lock it in, because that got to be
As you learn,
yeah.
but as you learn more about the tarot, and as you learn more about different parts of it, then you can say, visit that again then and see, looking at it now with my new situation, my new information, what do I
Right.
think? So have it as a temporary, something to ease you into a situation where you're
Right.
fixed, where you're presented with 16 court cards to make some use of.
Right.
Mhm.
So let's move on to the King of Cups, shall we?
Mhm.
Yeah. So the traits that I came up with, or that I use, I think that he embodies emotional stability, but emotional maturity is how I
Yeah.
see him. I also see him willing to listen. He's a listener, and he's the guy that you want to sit down with and counsel with. I think that there's, he's highly intuitive. I don't see them all as being, psychic. But just the everyday, regular, nice guy, that would lend a hand, and he's tends to be a little bit more. I see the. I don't see him as weak. I see him just as strong as the King of Wands or the King of Swords. I just see him having a softer approach to how he leads. What do
Yeah.
y'all think?
And I think, I mean, to me, he is the embodiment of emotional intelligence, right?
Right.
And he's the one. And the reason people respond to his leadership is because they feel heard when they're talking to him.
Yeah, I never
They
thought about that,
feel
but you're
he
right.
gets them. And so, that's why they're willing to put their trust into him. And he can lead through that because people think that he really does understand and is for their best interests. And it's very, very powerful. Particularly, I find in this age where we're kind of locked into culturally the idea of rationality and logic and reason. And so if I ask you why you did something, you have to give me a logical intellectual reason for it. And the King of Cups understands you did it because you felt it,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. And I think that when he speaks, people, I mean, that comes out. I think that his, where the harder kings can be a little more phony sounding. I think that when you hear him speak, I think you believe him. I mean, the way that he comes out, and I think because of that, that makes him a really good mediator. I think he can really, I think he can see how people are feeling, and he can touch that part of them.
Yeah.
And so I think he's really good about that. But so yeah, he's really good as for as far as resolving conflicts, where you're going to have a little bit of diplomacy. He would be the one to do that. But at the same time, I think he could be somebody with boundary issues too. And so when I'm saying, like, in a relationship and everything, I see him as, well, I don't know, he's not weak, but I think people see him as weak because of his demeanor, because of his softer demeanor. And so I
Yeah.
think that, that gives people the idea that they can, extend themselves into his space more than they would say the wands.
And I could
or the
see
swords.
him becoming a bit paternalistic in a relationship,
Oh
right?
yeah.
I know best, right? And that
Yeah.
kind of fatherly love and protection and that sort of stuff. And sometimes you don't need protecting. You're doing quite fine
Right.
on your own 2 feet, right? And I think that could be a area of conflict when you're dealing with the King of Wands.
But you think that he would be the perfect man in a relationship with somebody who has daddy issues?
Oh, God.
They're looking for that.
What in the world was that?
I don't know, but if I started that, I'm backing up.
I am too. I'm not going there. I'm out.
We will move swiftly on, I think.
That's funny.
So
Um,
on a different note, when I look at our King of Cups,
yes.
I look at him, and again I see, what is he doing? He's sitting on his throne, but he's not giving you all his attention either. But he wants to give you his attention because this is he feels in charge, and he feels that he needs to be there for you emotionally, but he steps back a little bit emotionally.
Mhm.
And I feel if you look at his cup is empty. He's very he, so he's very creative. Cups are very creative, and he's the most creative court. So I think he's missing the freedom to be creative in his own right. And if you look at his cup, the page of cups has a fish coming out of his cup. So his creativity is free and available. Whereas the King of Cups, he feels that's how he should be. He should be like the page. He should be free to be creative in his own right. But instead of that, where is his fish only tied around his chain and a neck? So his
Oh,
position
yeah.
as his position as a leader, he takes his position as a leader and minder of his people very seriously. So he's locked into this, and he's going to do right by everybody that he's minding. But he's a little bit resentful that his creativity is being tied up there. And if you see the fish behind him on the ocean, the fish is going free, and there's a ship going somewhere, a great adventure happening. And he has his back to all that, because why? Because he's got to stay there and do his duty, and he will
Right.
do that. But I feel on some level that he feels he's missing out that little bit, but he will do it because
Right.
that's a good King of Cups does.
I think that's a really good analogy. And I think that, I think if you think about it, like, in a work situation, for example, he might want to be more creative. He might want to do more, but he feels that responsibility,
Mhm.
which is what makes him a caring, trusting, a person that people turn to and respect, because he is willing to, he's mature enough to say, hey, I feel responsible for, the betterment of the people around me. And I think that's what makes him a really good leader. In a career reading, and I'm thinking about how can you take these attributes and turn them into, an actual, see them in a reading. I think relationship wise, I think that if the King of Cups comes up, I think you can trust that the relationship is going to be built on trust. I think this is, somebody that you can trust. I think he has empathy. And I also think that he may be more, you might have more intimacy from him than you would from, well, definitely from the King of Swords and probably from the King of Pentacles. But in a career reading, I think you're looking at somebody who's more apt to be in the arts. So if I'm saying I'm looking for a man, where should I look for him? He may be in like counseling, therapy, but maybe more somebody who's more in the arts, or maybe he's an ad guy, right? Maybe he's in marketing or advertising, because they are very creative. And I think that that's a possibility. But I also think that when he comes up in a work reading, how will I like this new job, or how will this new job come? And you get the King of Wands as an attribute. I think you can say that it will be emotionally fulfilling. There's that opportunity for it to be emotionally fulfilling. So we're not just looking at him as a person. We're looking at him as more than that.
Or you can also, as well as that, you can look at him and see, where is he seated. So he's seated on something impossible. You have to ask yourself, how real is the situation? He's seated on a rock in the middle of an ocean, on a flat rock. It's that sitting on water. So you have to ask yourself, when you look at that, the situation that I'm inquiring about, it seems a bit unreal, or how practical is it? So you ask yourself that. Another thing I notice, he's very slow about, he's not looking at his cup for a start, and he's the king of cups, so the emotions are what he's all about. So I feel he's one step back from his emotional. He knows all about emotional needs, and he can advise people very well, but he wants to be one step removed from it himself. And you'll notice his toe is not touching the water. He's keeping well away from the actual emotions. So I think he steps one step back and will give great advice, but not necessarily want to get his feet wet, not want to get emotionally involved.
Yeah. Anything on that, D, you want to add?
Well, I consider him human resources. Done.
Mm.
Let's just put it out there. There he is, negotiator. You know, and it's like, what are you really wanting here? What do I really want? How involved do you want to be with it? So he counsels, he negotiates, and he's human resource.
Okay.
All these things that just to kind of like, you don't want to get your feet wet. You just want to dip your toe. You don't want to get too close. You are investigating. You're looking everything over. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mm.
So, you know, is he
So
doing the right thing?
how would that show up? How would that show up then in a career reading or a work reading?
Well, it's that those, you know, that those are the qualities of it. So then, of course, Lynn, you got to pull a clarifier. Give me a break. You got to throw at least 3 other cards. Come on. If
At
I
least
just
3.
had that king come out and it came out as where should I go? What's my workplace is going to be like? And this came out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I already know that he's saying, well, how deep do you want to get in it? Is it something you really want? Clarifier.
Or it might say, control your emotions.
That,
Be
yeah,
careful and control your emotions. And that could be in a relationship reading too.
yeah.
I'm just saying that people aspiring tarologists have such a hard time, and so do some seasoned ones, trying to put that court card in a context that makes sense in a reading. It's like, how does it, we know all the attributes, but then to be able to marry that to the situation, it can be
I
kind of hard.
like that idea that Dee was saying, in a work situation. It might be if he's in charge of a team meeting, or that, or a think tank or something. It might be a nod to say, look, keep back a bit, listen to what everyone's saying, see how it's firing them up, but don't get emotionally drawn into the conflict.
Yeah.
Step back
Yeah.
a little bit, see how everyone else is reacting.
So
But you
it'd be
do it.
interesting, wouldn't it, to see the king, in let's say a 5-card reading, to see the king of cups come up in relation to the 5 of wands. That would be
Mhm.
Mm.
that
Yes,
would definitely jump out, and that's what I would say is, ooh,
move
you're
back,
gonna be the voice of reason in this situation.
hold your own ground, stand back, be there for
Yeah.
them, but not
Yeah.
with them.
Whatever Anne Marie said, that's what I said.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks.
Thank you, Dee.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that. Oh, God.
I think
You-
honestly, it just depends on the cards that are around and what the question
Sure.
actually is. Because I mean,
Yeah.
the attributes are all there. I love the King of Cups. I think the King of Cups is
Mhm.
you're talking about connecting the King of Cups with maybe someone that you know. I mean, if you have work experience, is there someone in your surroundings that has these attributes? Is it a supervisor? Is it somebody that's been looking out for you and you just haven't really paid attention? I mean, I like the King of Cups. I
I
think
do
the
too.
King of Cups has a lot to offer.
Mhm.
He's he's there to lend a hand. He's there to mentor, I think.
I,
You know,
yeah.
it,
Don't you feel like he's got your back?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Actually,
definitely.
I worked for the King of Cups.
You've
I
worked for him.
I
know
had a
him.
supervisor who was the epitome of the King of Cups.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
sweet.
I mean, this person was there for all of us. This guy, nurtured us. This guy told us, you know, question our, like when we'd come with a question, he'd turn around and he'd smile and he says, "Well, what do you think?" It's
Uh,
like, "Well, I'm coming to you for an answer." "Well, okay, but
mhm.
what do you think?"
Yeah.
And he would encourage us to actually think and
Yeah.
to get creative and find a resolve. And
Sure.
so I feel that the King of Cups is that person. If you're talking about a person, if you're talking about attributes, and yeah, it's like, use your head.
Yeah.
You've got a heart, you've got your heart,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but use your head,
Yeah.
to resolve whatever it is that you're trying to figure out. Because I mean, if he comes up in a reading, about employment, or or career, well, those are all things that you need to look out for. Is there somebody there helping you?
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
See, that's why I came. That's why I said it's when I see him, I think of, how's this new job going to go? I'm starting next week. And when I see him come up as a again, depends on the cards that come around it. It could be you have somebody that is very much in your corner and who's going to be very supportive of you. And I think you can trust that, and you'll know him when you see him because you'll sense it from him. But I
exactly.
also think that as an attribute, it could be, yes, this job I think will be emotionally fulfilling because you already negotiated the salary. You already know that you want that position. So the material aspect of it has already been set. What it's going to end up being is how good are you going to feel about getting up and going to that job every day?
Well, yeah, and exactly that's part of the cups, is that it's connected to creativity, it's connected to the heart.
Right.
And what comes to my mind as you're talking is like, if you love your job, you don't, it's not you're not working. Now, how's that
Right.
cliche go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would
Yeah.
never work a day in your life if you're
If you
working
love
on
what you're
something you
doing,
like.
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so
Sure.
so that's how I see that. And in regards to um relationships, well, it's definitely a loving partner.
Yeah.
um
Hmm.
but yeah,
Yeah.
know your damn boundaries. I mean,
Right.
because that loving partner could, make you do things that maybe you don't want to do. Maybe I don't want to
Yeah.
go shopping today.
Hmm.
Maybe I want to stay home. I don't know.
Well, it's
But
like, it's like the Empress or the Queen of Cups. It's, there's a fine line between mothering and smothering, you know.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's move on to the swords, the King of Swords.
You're the King of Swords. Yeah.
Everybody, I mean, we all know him as being intellectual, being logical, being we know that he can see through the illusions. We know he can see the truth. He's got clarity, and he can bring clarity to any situation. We get that. But one of the things that I see a lot is people see him as an impartial judge.
Hmm.
And I don't know, I guess I've just never had him come up in a reading or a situation where impartiality was, and maybe it just wasn't an issue. But I never saw him as that. And I've never, they talk about him, possibly being a police officer or a judge or a government official. And I don't know. I guess I just haven't seen that side. What do you see most?
Do you know when you say that thing about being impartial, Lynn? What again? Looking at the card itself, he's got his sword of truth and the sword that cuts through anything. What is he's pure truth. But his sword is not straight up like justice or like the Queen of Swords. Where am I going with
True.
that? So his sword is slightly tilted. So he's prepared to see he may be leaning in one direction rather than another, or he may be inclined, he may be prepared to see more than one side of the situation. So I wouldn't see him as being absolutely dogmatic like the Queen of Swords. I
Yeah.
mean, her way is the only way. This is the way, this is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Just as the scales have to be balanced. But with the king, he's going to listen. He's going to use his sword or his mind or his intellect to cut through what's fuzzing the the situation, and he's going
Right.
to find then, is there a leaning left or right that he should be aware of?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I guess I just see him as having as being an independent thinker, and
Mm,
he can listen to all sides of the story, but at the end of the day, it's going to be what makes the most sense to him.
mhm.
And I think maybe that's why I feel like he's, he may not be the most impartial person, but yeah, you don't know. So
I think he can be swayed. I think he
yeah,
can be swayed by argument. Argument will be a big thing for him, logic and argument. So I think where people are coming at him from both sides and each seems to think that they're correct, he can be persuaded by a logical argument that no, it's weighing in on this side. This is how it really is.
right.
Mm.
Well, he may not be judge impartial. He is definitely can be judgmental.
Yeah.
And maybe it's that shadow side of him that I feel I can't totally trust his partiality, because I know how judgmental and critical and overly critical he can be at times.
And he could be wounding with words.
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm,
He could be
mhm.
very, he could be,
Now,
on a bad day, he could be a smart aleck.
yeah. Now see,
Mm.
I see the Three of Swords as wounding with words. I
Mm.
see the King and Queen of Swords as wounding with wit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But sometimes when we're being very smart and we think this is in our own mind what has not gone through our filters, and something seems very funny or very witty, and suddenly you realize, that's not so funny really to the person listening to it.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Well, at least we know he's honest. And I think that's the key. And I think, too, when he comes up in a relationship reading, I think that I think it lets me know that we need open communication, open and honest communication in
Yeah.
that situation. But I
Mhm.
think that if there's somebody involved in this relationship reading, I think it's somebody that you can count on to be brutally honest with you. And sometimes that's what we need. We need that honesty, and we need that communication, because swords are not just about what we think, but it's how we communicate what we think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
D.
No, I agree. Yeah, that all fits in there because I treat all of the kings and queens as people. So when that comes up, if I treat it like it's questioning me and it's saying, "Have you done your research? Do you know what this is all about? Is this political? Is this law?" That's what it triggers in my mind when I see any of them with what their attributes are. So with this sword, and I have of course you all have cards that the sword is down. It's like, okay, this is the final answer. Or if it's up, it's cutting through all the hoopla and the crap. Um, but even then, I think that when those kings show up, it's to ask us, what are we looking for? What is that person who the question is coming from? What does this card mean for them?
Yeah.
So if it's the sword, it's basically saying, yeah, you're in it. Have you done your research? Is this what you want? Are you ready for the full training of it? Do you want, like you said, is it a police? Is it military? Whatever it is, it's going to be heavy duty, and they're going to tell and give you the what fors and what you're going to have to do. Are you
Yeah.
ready for that? And
Mhm.
that I really feel it's in your face card.
So
And
if the King of Wands is an in your face card and the King of Swords is an
yep.
in your face card,
Mhm.
people follow people. They're both leaders, And if the King of Wands is leading people because they want to follow him because he's so creative and they don't know what he's going to do next, he's so, just, impromptu and creative and interesting. What kind of people follow then the King of Swords? What type of personality follows them?
Someone who
Well,
will be prepared to make a decision and take the consequences, I think.
Yep,
That he's
decision
prepared to
making.
stand there, get his sword out and say, off with their heads.
Yep,
And that
decision.
someone else might think that, but they're never going to say it. But
No.
Do you see the King of Swords as, all right, let me preface this by saying my idea, I love Cassandra Eason's take on the Chariot, which is, you know what, if you want to get somewhere in life, get in the driver's seat, take yourself there. Or you can get in the passenger seat and you can go along for the ride, but then you can't bitch about where you end up because you didn't want to participate in the decision. And I see that in my head with the King of Swords. It's like, people are following him because they're riding. It's almost like they're the passengers, as opposed to the people following the King of Wands. They want to be him. They're following him. They're trying to emulate him. They want to be him. Where the other one, they want him to make the decisions for them.
So
Well,
maybe weaker people, maybe people who aren't prepared to put themselves out there to be judged, and or people who feel they don't have enough authority or enough that they will get enough notice. They want to get somebody behind somebody like the King of Swords and maybe feed in the ideas to this King of Sword type person and hope that he'll follow through.
Right.
And he's a
Something that they
rule
want.
he follows rules. So
Yeah.
guidelines, rules. If that's the kind of thing that you like, where you've already got that to follow, where the Wands is, he's a smooth talker.
Yeah.
He's going to smooth you over. Give
Kate, you were
can
gonna
do it.
say something? Oh, sorry.
yeah, the thing, and it's kind of bouncing off of what Dee was just saying there. I see the King of Swords. He comes with a code, whether it's the code
Yeah.
of the warrior, whether
Yep.
it's a legal code, whether it's an ethics code, like
A moral code. Yeah.
moral code, right? And he is true to that, and he is wedded to that, and right, and that is his North Star, his guiding light. And you're not going to tears and temper tantrums and stamping of feet, or flop drop and wine is not going to impress him, right? If you
Right.
come up, and I
True.
think it might have been Yvonne that said it, was this whole idea that you would have um him coming up and having these concrete ideas, and you can get him, you move him through argument and logic is how you move him,
Right.
because the emotional displays and the temper tantrums and it's not fair or whatever doesn't
I
rock him.
mean, yes.
But if you go down and you say A follows B, B follows C, therefore D, he's going to
Must
sit
be.
back and listen to that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Also, just thinking, and it's not quite to do with the King of Swords, but I like our best man Vincent Petici. He had a feeling that, or was saying about the kings being knowledge. So a lot of the time when the king comes up, I ask myself, do I need to know more about the situation before I make any decision?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Apart from
true.
the person, I say to myself, okay, do I have all the knowledge? I think Dee was saying that. Am I prepared for everything that might follow on this? Do I know everything that might follow on this? So check my knowledge
Mm-hmm.
and just
And
see
I
where
think that bodes well too when you're looking at a career reading. You're looking at what's going on behind the scenes. Is there anything going on behind the scenes at work that I need to know about? And I think when he comes up, I think, yes, making sure that you have clarity on the situation, making sure that you have all the information, and then you take the time to disseminate it before you just arbitrarily go out and pull a king of wands,
or
on the
even
situation.
even asking yourself, if you're going into a big corporation, or if you will obviously do your research and see what the company is like, but ask yourself, what is their particular ethos? What is their way of handling things? What are they presenting to people, and what
Yeah.
are they delivering? Is this something you can live with? You know,
Right.
yeah, are they going with wands? Are they all show and all bluster? Are they going for the truth? Are they going for an emotional take, trying to sway people emotionally to do this or that or the other?
Yeah.
So can you live with that? So
Sure.
that's,
Also, I think that on the shadow side for a work reading, it may show somebody who is inflexible.
yes,
So I
yeah,
really think that it's about, finding that balance, not being overly rigid, being
mm,
able to fit in, or being able to find a compromise that everybody can live with, that both of, that you and your manager, or you and your team at work, it's finding that, just being less
balance.
rigid.
Yeah.
Yes, because reversed, I see the King of Swords as cruelty and abuse of power,
Mm,
right? Like
Oh,
he
yeah.
knows he has power and authority, and he abuses that to his own ends,
yeah,
as
and of course,
opposed to,
yeah.
again, the code.
Right. Mm.
And I,
Okay.
since I'm back now, sorry about that. I had to bounce out for a second.
That's okay.
But I was listening. Well, when I see in relationship to uh, a work reading, eh, basically when I see this card, it tells me that this person, the person who the querent, has the intellect, has the skills, and to, yeah, use what you have, because I mean you've got it, you've got the smarts. Use it to your benefit, and in the sense of figuring things out. If you have a problem at work, it doesn't mean take the sword and go stabbing around. It means use your brain, use your
Why
intelligence.
not?
Well, I mean,
There's nothing wrong with a good
I'll take
stabbing.
care of this problem in one swing.
because you are already, this is because this is the king card.
Yeah.
You are
You
not
are
the
above
knight.
that. You are above
You're not
that.
taking
Oh,
you're not
shoot.
taking that kind of action. You are mature. You have
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have this power and authority of
Yeah.
your intellect.
Right.
Okay. So therefore, if there are questions about, am I in the right job? Well, use your head. Are you? I
Yeah.
mean, you know darn well
Break
if
it
it's
down.
you break it down. Yeah, exactly.
Piece of paper and pencil. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Or
I
you
mean,
can ask yourself, why are you even, the very fact that you're asking yourself that question,
yeah, exactly. You're because
why
you're
are you asking yourself that question? What
Yeah.
because
makes you
you're
think, what is it about something that you know, or that you've recently heard, or that you suspect, that makes you think this might not be the job for you? And then deal with
exactly.
that.
Right.
That's because you know
Or
what that
go
is?
talk to the King of Cups.
No, you know what that is? That's your inner voice telling you,
Yes.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, cut.
Yeah. Your
Okay,
intellect.
okay,
Yeah.
here you go. Oh, here you go. All
Yeah.
right, you want the
Yeah.
sword? Okay, cut
So,
through the crap,
Yes.
so
and get to the point.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
That's it.
and use your mind.
yeah.
Use
Right.
what God gave you, and to
But Lynn
decipher and
has a
figure things
very,
out.
Lynn has a good point there, because she says, go to the King of Cups.
Yeah.
And the King of Cups is the most connected king to our unconscious.
Mhm.
So check in with
Yep,
your unconscious. What
yep,
is it
yep,
that's
yep.
bubbling
I
up in
mean,
there that you
you
need
know,
to be
they
aware of?
yeah, I think the kings are here to assist us, in figuring out what it is that, why, assist us to get to that level of
Right.
completion, to that wherever it is, whether it's a relationship, whether it's, an employment, or, or maybe we're procrastinating,
Mm,
maybe, deep down inside, we know this is a good decision, but we're not seeing it. So this king is telling you to, cut through the red tape,
Right.
pull the wolf over your eyes, wake up. Anyway,
Mhm.
that's my point.
Yeah, and I was thinking as you were saying that, I'm thinking that's really true, but boy, it would help to have clarifiers on that, right,
Of
Dee?
course.
Hey, hey.
Yes.
Hey.
It
Yeah.
Or
would.
here, you
It's
could
like,
also do
so,
this.
yes,
Just pull the 4 kings out and either pick one that associates with what you're going to be looking for, or one that you want, or shuffle them and throw one out, and there is where you start. This
There
is
you
the
go.
one that's going to speak to you, because it basically brings up just what we were all talking about. Why are you questioning this, and what questions do you really want answered?
yeah.
There you go.
So let's move on to the King of Pentacles. I see, yeah, the King of Pentacles. I really see him as, I don't know, it's the epitome of abundance, material abundance. It just so relates to the practical side of life, which to me is a tangible thing too, is the practicality. So who wants to delve into this guy?
Delve into this guy.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Let me see. Let me look at my notes. Well, I mean, he's everything that you just said. Abundance, security. I mean, he and even if you're gonna look at the cards, I mean, look at his presence there. It's like, yeah, I've got it.
Yeah.
Oh
Can
yeah,
you
there he
see
is.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's serious guy there. Kind of serious
Serious,
there.
but yeah, serious, but he
But the pentacles are of the earth, right?
yes.
Yes.
And the earth is ground. And to me, the thing about all the pentacles to me are very grounded. And I think, he's very he's trustworthy, and you can count on him. He's very grounded. He's in his thoughts and his actions. I think he takes that time, and I think he's yeah. I just see him as being extremely practical and trustworthy. Also, I see him as the one who really rolls up his sleeves and does the work. And I think way back when I was, I don't know, my coach was talking about the pentacles being the working class, being the ones that, they're the ones that get out in the field and actually till the soil and do the harvest all the way through the harvest, and they're the artisans, and they get out there and they really do the work. And so sometimes to the point where maybe there's like a work-life a little bit of imbalance, because I think they're so focused on the material aspect, taking and that doesn't have to be a negative thing. That can just be in providing for the safety and security of their families and their employees.
So does that make him a stand-up guy, or does that make him a guy or person that doesn't have common sense? Or is he a terrible date?
Or is he greedy?
If you were dating that kind of a guy, would he be that kind of I mean, he knows so much. Would he be interesting, or would you be overwhelmed with it?
See, I really haven't put a whole lot of time and effort into him as I have the Knight of Pentacles. See, to me, the Knight of Pentacles, I think he's a dull boy. I think he's all work, no play. I've always said that, you know what, he'd be a terrible lover, but he'd make up for it by buying you a house.
This is the guy that's going to provide, security and,
yeah,
material security. I mean, and also this is a person who has come through the stages of, working their tail off and, trying to achieve, and has finally come to that point, so the attributes of this card is like, like all the kings, it's completion.
yeah. But I also think that this guy, I just think it's so obvious that this guy has earned the respect that he has. He's worked for it and he's earned it, and we can see that.
And it can be this guy or this gal.
Yeah.
Whoever this is, this individual has earned the respect, has it hasn't been an easy road because
No.
No.
again, it's the pentacles. As you say, it's the working class, the person. This guy didn't come into it. He
No.
worked for everything that he
He worked-
has, she has.
Yes.
Yeah, So
Mm.
So in
so-
a relationship, right? In a relationship reading, this could be seen as somebody who would be a potentially stable partner.
Mhm.
And especially financially stable. I mean, what are the top 3 things that you want in a guy you're going to date? Somebody that has a paycheck. You don't have to. You're not
It
paying his
helps.
way. Financially stable. I do think though that he also can be a little overly focused on material possessions. He might be the guy that has to drive has to have a nicer car, has to have a nicer suit, but he might just enjoy the finer things in life. And that doesn't have to be a negative. That doesn't have to be, materially,
Yeah.
Yeah, but
obsessed.
he's not gonna spend the mortgage payment on getting a new suit.
That's
right?
true.
Like, he's very, very practical.
Yeah.
Yes.
What you see is what you get.
Yeah.
And
It's
yes,
not, yeah.
might like
So,
the
if
book
you look
top.
at
Emery.
if you look at the card, when I look at this card, I see almost too much of everything.
Yeah, it's very busy.
Overload,
Yeah.
overload, but it's as if he absolutely loves things. He loves having enough and over much of everything. I certainly wouldn't like to be going through a divorce with him because separating him from any of his wealth or any of his possessions would be very, very difficult.
And
Mhm.
what an
And I-
interesting concept in a reading.
Mm. And I think as well, if it was in a job situation, he wouldn't be the one that's wondering about being a team player or bringing creative ideas to the whole thing. He'd be wondering, so what are the perks now? How many holidays am I having? Are there free? What's in it for me apart from the work?
The what's in it for me, I like that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I would think,
That's it.
and even if you look at this particular card anyway, it's as if his cloak and everything about him is actually growing down into the earth. It's hard to see where he finishes and the earth begins. But one very interesting thing I see in that card is he has one foot there that is armored, so he's ready to protect what he owns.
Oh,
He's
Ah.
not going to, it's not going to be taken from him easily. He has earned it the hard way. He values it, and you're not going to remove him from his possessions very easily, I would think.
I always love hearing your renditions, Anne Marie.
Yeah,
Thank you
good
very
one.
much.
You always make me think. Oh, yeah, on the negative side of either a career reading or a relationship, it would just be his risk adverse, look at the world. I mean, he's just very overly cautious, about everything. So he might be a stick in the mud, but if you go to him for financial advice, or you want to start a business, you want to do something, and you want to look at the pros and cons, I think this is the king for that. I mean, everybody else will listen to you, they'll look at, they'll see clarity and stuff, but this is a guy that can see it from a, will this work or not? From an operational standpoint, this is the guy that can see that, because he takes businesses and makes them work all the time. So interesting.
And he probably has had his share of failures along the way. He's probably come up the hard way. So
Yeah.
he would be very aware of the pitfalls and what to watch out for. So
Right.
his advice would be very, very valuable.
Really?
This is, yeah, like I was mentioning, this is a person who is self-made,
Hmm.
who earned his status and all his riches and all that on his own. No one handed him anything.
Right.
So I think when it comes up in a reading, it just depends on what the question is and the surrounding cards, of course, but
When he comes up in a reading for me, the first thing that comes to mind, or what resonates with me, is a safe and secure and grounded situation. That's what comes up. And then the other cards will tell me in what direction to take that.
right, that it can be if you play
Yeah.
if you pay attention.
If you
Word.
play your cards right.
I was about to say
I
it.
know you were.
I didn't want to
I
be
said
so
it for you.
cliche. I've been, yeah. Anyway, but yeah.
Any last words on the King of Pentacles here?
He comes up as boring but safe.
Yeah, boring but safe. There you go. Now, see, now that right there is a great, keyword for him.
Yep.
So I'm so grateful that you all came with all this information. It's so fun to talk to you about it. I want to talk for a minute about future. Yes.
One question. Do any of you see the Emperor in the major arcana as the 5th king of the deck?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, an interesting thing there. I was reading somewhere where there are groups associated. The groups in the minors are associated with the majors,
Right.
and I came across the idea that the emperor is the king of kings. That he's the king of everything, and the kings are his king soldiers.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Does that
They're all
make
his
sense?
attributes, right?
Yeah.
I've said this quite a few times in other venues. But whenever my father, who passed away 3 years ago, but whenever the emperor would come up in a reading, he epitomized my father. And sure enough, every time it came up in one of my readings, it was my father. But I found this phrase, and I'm pretty sure it's a Tom Benjamin phrase, because you know how I feel about Tom Benjamin. But it just so epitomizes to me the emperor, the king of kings. He provides for the welfare of others as he dictates the rules and regulations that govern their lives. I just love that.
Mhm.
It's so true. It's like, hey, I care for you, but it's my way, and that's kind of cool.
So in one way, then he embodies, the emperor, we could say, embodies all the traits of all the kings.
Yes, all of them.
We can pick when he
Exactly.
comes up in a reading. We might be able to choose, depending on our question. We might be able to choose which part of him do we want. Do we want the loving? Do we want the emotional king of cups? Do we want the king of swords? Who do we want? What part of the emperor do we want to draw from?
Right. That's really interesting, Emery.
I see clarifiers coming.
Yeah. So, so we did Kings today. Have we done them all now? I think
Yes.
we've done all the
Yes.
courts. If anybody wants to see them, to go back and look at I actually did a playlist just of podcasts, so you can just look through those. So December, let's look forward. December, we are going to talk about year-end readings. And like what should be in them, what can be in them, if you've done them before, how they've worked out for you. I have some interesting stuff on that. Also, are there any, there are different types of year-end readings. What have you found to be most successful, that kind of thing. And I thought, because December, everyone's going to be doing, wanting to do year-end readings, I thought it might be interesting to, throw out maybe our favorite. Hey, if you have a favorite year-end a layout or spread, please send it my way, and then I'll throw them up there. January, everyone's asking for interpretations. They love our interpretations of stuff. So I thought we'd do some more 3-card interpretations, bring that back out. I'll throw out some scenarios and we can all pull cards, because we've done that before and that's gone over really well. February, I thought we might try our hand at health readings. A discussion about health readings, because that seems to be such a tough area for people. And then March, incorporating other modalities into your tarot practice. Do you use pendulums? Do you use crystals? Do you use astrology? How do you interact? How do you bring them together? And then I thought, and I haven't mentioned this to you guys before, because I know I've mentioned the others, but I was thinking maybe, come April time, we either do more, interpretations, because people like that. But I was thinking also about having a discussion about the lighter side of darker cards too. I thought that might be something we can tackle. All right, then. Dee, you came in just a little late.
Yep.
But I got to show you my 3.5 pound find. Look.
Oh, I saw that. Oh my gosh.
3.5 pounds. This carnelian, I can look at that. I can barely.
Oh, it's gorgeous. It's
fabulous.
gorgeous.
This was my housewarming gift for my new shop that I'm opening on
From
December
yourself
1st.
to yourself.
Yeah, it's my own housewarming gift to myself.
Nice.
You know,
That's
it's the
good.
holiday time. It's like I do that. I get everybody else all their presents, and then the one big last one for me.
You have to do it.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
listen, you guys, it's a pleasure seeing all of you. And Kate, you got some interesting, deeper, intelligent stuff coming in January. I'm so excited because you're going to be delving into cards in a different way than I've seen anybody else do. So we'll leave people with that. And Dee, you're still doing the college crowd, right?
I am.
Yeah. Yvonne, you're still guiding the Vincent Petici
Gang.
yeah, the gang over there, and I've
where's-
got that information in down below.
Yeah,
on
I don't know where
that.
I'm guiding them to, but yeah,
Yeah.
All right.
I'm leading them astray.
Yeah, on the Facebook. Are you
Yes.
still in Ireland, Anne Marie, or are you, because you travel around?
I am still in Ireland, yes.
Okay. And by the way, you've got a new setup of some kind. It looks really nice. Your camera
thank you.
setup.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, that works great.
One of these times I will get it right.
Yay. And then
There you
again,
go.
if you're still interested in Kings, that's my latest that I just threw up on this channel was
Yes.
Kings and the Celtic Cross. So I will see you all in December and have a happy Thanksgiving. And I want everyone to have a happy Thanksgiving. And we all have a lot to be thankful for. Some of us more than others. It's like,
Yeah.
Best heart here.
So
There.
yes, y'all take care and we'll see you later.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody. See ya.